Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Kim, and let's talk quarterly book stats. In total, I had read 17 books. Of those 17 books, I listened to 22 hours of audiobooks and read 4,083 pages. We'll start with my genre stats. I had such a varied quarter. Like, I read a little bit of everything, like, there is some nonfiction in there, literary, mystery, dystopian, horror, thriller. Thriller is my highest read genre, which is really not surprising. Thrillers were kind of like my gateway into picking up my reading habit in my adult life. I can foresee my thrillers decreasing this quarter purely because of the fact that I'm just trying to read a variety of genres and also diversely as well. And thrillers, I just find I'm kind of getting a little bored with a little bit. Okay, moving on to star rating. The average star rating I gave to the 17 books I read was 3.9, which is really decent. I had an excellent reading quarter. I gave 5 books 4.25 stars, which is pretty decent. One of them being Murder in the Family, which was a really unique and fun read. I found the structure to be really engaging and just so unlike any mystery that I've read before. We Spread was my very first Ian read, and I really liked the unnerving allegory and its delivery in that too, and everything that it essentially had to say. Part of Your World and You Again, both romances I read last quarter and thoroughly enjoyed both of them. Kate Goldbeck is a brand new romance author to me, and so I can't wait to see what else she comes out with. I find it overall relatively tough to give romances 5 stars because sometimes the ending is just, in my opinion, can be really cheesy or cringy and just like, I don't know, not quite. Like, it's very rare that I'll read a romance where I'm like, that's a perfect ending, loved it from front to back. Like, especially Part of Your World and You Again. Like, I would say that I devoured both of those books. I really enjoyed them. It's just the ending kind of is like, it's the last thing you read in a book. Like, it's the last kind of send off to the reader. I would say that I enjoyed the ending to You Again more than I liked Part of Your World. You Again felt very appropriate for the characters and just kind of what we grew to know about them. But yeah, anyways, I just went on a whole tangent about the endings of these books, which nobody really asked for. And then The September House I gave 4.25 stars. Really, really great metaphors in here and quite different from what I expected, but in the best way possible. I'll probably talk about it in a wrap up, but again, with the endings, I didn't love the ending to The September House, which is why I couldn't give it a 5. And then the only 5 stars I gave out was to Tin Man and Heartstoppers. Heartstoppers was the very last book I read in 2023, and what a very beautiful send-off. Like, goodbye 2023, I'm going into 2024 having read the adorable Heartstoppers. It made me feel very warm and cozy over the holiday break. This is rapidly turning into a wrap-up, which I did not intend to do. I haven't talked about any books that I've read recently with anybody, so I think that that's probably why this is morphing into it, but all you need to know is yes, Tin Man and then Heartstoppers were the only 5 stars that I gave out last quarter. As far as book format goes, there's one new category in here, which is audio / ebook. That is just We Spread because I listened to half of it and then I read half of it. I think it's called like immersive reading, where you're listening to it and reading it either at the same time, or when I was putzing around doing chores and whatever, I would listen to it, and then when I had some downtime, I would read it with my eyes. And I just find that that's a really unique experience because when I pick up the book to read it with my eyes, like I still hear the narrator in my head narrating it. And physical book reading really increased for no other reason other than I just felt like holding a physical book that I was reading. And I got a new book light, which I'm very excited about, because my old book light, it was like a white light, and so the blue light was really interfering with my sleep like I knew it was. Like, I normally when I'm reading in bed, like I get very tired, but when I would be reading with the white light, it didn't matter, like I just wasn't getting tired. And so I would just stick with reading on my e-reader for a good while because it has the nightlight filter on that. My new book light has like the blue light filter already on it, which is perfect, and I'm noticing a huge difference. Whether that's placebo or not, I don't know. I did this stat last quarter and I just thought it was interesting. I was just kind of curious to know, like, if there was like a specific format that I read it in, did I tend to give it a higher rating? And I listened to 3.5 audiobooks, again because I listened to half of We Spread on audio, and then the other half I read with my eyes, and gave an average rating of 4 stars to audiobooks, which is pretty decent because audiobooks are really hit or miss for me. I know typically within the first like 10-15% if the audiobook is going to work for me. For example, I started Tin Man on audio, did not enjoy it at all on audio, so I was like, this is something I think I need to read with my eyes. So I made the switch, and I don't regret it at all because it was one of my favorite books from last year, and I think my reading experience and enjoyment of the book would have been drastically a night and day difference if I had continued with listening to it on audio. Anyways, definitely went on a tangent about audiobooks. All that to say, audiobooks are really hit or miss, so I'm happy to see that the average rating I gave out last quarter to them was 4 stars. So next I'll go on to my average star rating. I think I've mentioned before that thrillers have been pretty disappointing overall this year, so I'm really not surprised to see that thrillers is my lowest rated genre. I just find I'm really well acquainted with the genre, and sometimes I find if I read one thriller, you've kind of read them all at that point. And so when I read one that's kind of like shocking, like really enjoyable, I'm very pleased with it because it's far and few in between these days, I find. The very last thing that I wanted to do was just go over some reading highlights from the previous quarter. I did this in my last quarterly stats video, and it was a nice experience for myself to kind of reminisce on the books I read. And I think in my last video I shared some photos of like hiking and camping trips that I had read specific books on, and that was really nice. I don't have any exciting photos necessarily to share from this previous quarter because it's been cold and dreary, but I did read a couple of my favorite books from the year last quarter, and that being Tin Man and then You Again. And then I had a really successful reading vlog for Stay Spooky-a-thon. And then I read my first graphic novel, which was Heartstoppers, and I really enjoyed it. And it's so funny talking about this because with thrillers, like I was talking about, I am just so well acquainted with the genre that I just know what I like and don't like. Whereas genres that you maybe aren't very well acquainted with or haven't read much from, it's hard to know what you like and don't like. For me, I just kind of think like, okay, I'm not well acquainted with graphic novels. This is literally my very first graphic novel I've ever read. But did I enjoy my reading experience with this book? Absolutely. It was just very cute in its own way, and I really liked it and had an appreciation for the art within it too, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that that's part of the graphic novel experience. That's all my reading stats from the previous quarter. Really good, positive quarter overall. I think that this next quarter that we are in, so January, February, March, I'm just going to continue to branch into different genres because I really enjoyed that. It's not surprising to see that last quarter I branched out to the most genres I have, I think, in like a short period of time, and to see that my overall reading experience was really positive and highly rated. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for a little bit while I'm rapidly losing daylight. I hope you all are enjoying what you're reading and have a really good evening.